introduction. You all know Kent Williams, I'm quite sure. He has been a beekeeper for 35 plus years. He is a commercial beekeeper, and he keeps 1,600 colonies, 1,200 in Mississippi and 400 in Kentucky. He produces honey, sells honey, nukes, queens, and rents bees to pollinate almonds and pumpkins. He has operated a 3-day hands-on beekeeper school in his farm in the last week of April each year since 1996. So if you haven't been there, I haven't yet, hopefully you can get there and learn some good stuff. His class today is on acquiring and hiving bees, and so I give you Kent Williams.
So this is about how to get bees and how to put those bees in a hive. And if you have any questions about anything about beekeeping, I mean, I could satisfy the requirements of the title of this in about 45 seconds. You get bees by either catching a swarm, buying bees from somebody in a package or a nuke, or buying a full-size hive, and you put them in a hive by shaking the bees in the hive, shaking the swarm in a hive, or installing frames out of this into your hive. So we're done. So, but seriously, if you have any questions about any aspect of beekeeping, I don't mind answering anything that I know the answer to. And if I don't know the answer to it, there's a few guys back there that have already heard this before, that if I don't know the answer to your question, I will lie so convincingly that you'll leave here thinking that I did know the answer. But I won't lead you astray. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you that I don't, and that there are people that do, and I'll give you their phone number, and you can bother them. But how do you get bees? The most undependable method, if that's a word, is catching swarms, because you don't know when a swarm's going to be available to catch. There are lots of swarms every year, but you're not guaranteed that one is going to land somewhere close to a person that will call you and say, I heard you say you needed bees. There's some right outside my window right now. Please come get them before I die. But that's not a very dependable way of getting them, but it is very cheap. So the surest way of getting bees is also the most expensive. It's kind of like the saying that you get what you pay for. And you can catch a swarm. You can build a swarm trap and set out swarm traps and hopefully catch a swarm in that. That's a little bit more dependable than waiting on somebody to call you and say, there's a swarm of bees at my house, please come get them. It's a little bit more dependable than that is making your own swarm trap and putting it in a location that you think might catch a swarm. So if you make your own swarm trap, the size that it needs to be, these dimensions are according to Tom Seeley, and they're not hard and fast. It's not like swarms will not light in a box this size, but will light in a box that's that big square. It's not like that. A swarm is going to light where it decides to light. They're going to go where they decide to go. And they don't read all the books that we read. So they don't know that they're supposed to go in this perfect box. But it's roughly, the volume that you're looking for is roughly one 10-frame deep box with one 10-frame shallow or medium underneath that 10-frame deep. You fill the deep box with frames. If you know somebody that's a beekeeper that has a couple of frames of old, dark, black brood comb, beg, borrow, I'd say not steal them. I mean, this is Kentucky. You could suffer the consequences for that. But no, I'm not talking legal. but uh, but that's a very strong attractant for swarms. Is old, dark, nasty-looking brood comb. One frame, maybe 2 frames of that in your deep box. Fill it the rest of the way out with good frames. They don't have to be drawn, but just good frames. Nothing in that bottom. Bees seem to like, in swarm traps, they seem to gravitate toward hives where they go in the bottom and they measure the hive according to the size of that bottom and measure it according to the volume of the box. And they seem to like that or prefer that open space in the bottom. As for an attractant, you can use a swarm lure called, what's that called, Ricky? Swarm Commander. You can use Swarm Commander, something on that order. What that is queen mandibular pheromone added to lemongrass oil. You can also just use lemongrass oil, just a little bit along the back of the box. You can overload it really easy. If you put too much in there, the swarm will light there or land there, and then you might see them hanging on the bottom side of the thing because it's just way too much. They're overpowered. And just about what will go on the tip of a Q-tip is about right. And then replace that every couple of weeks, just with another Q-tip of lemongrass oil. Swarm Commander, just a spritz. It has a little pump on it, just a spritz in the back of the box. Set that preferably anywhere from waist high up to 10 to 12 feet high, just inside the drip line of a woods line. And you stand a fair chance of catching a swarm, maybe. You can put them. I know one. We have one particular beekeeper in our local association that he says an emergency room bill is way more expensive than buying bees. So he just sets his swarm trap on the ground and he catches bees in it. So it's another case of bees will do what bees are going to want to do. And sometimes you can kind of point them in the direction you want them to go and maybe they'll go. And sometimes you can point them in the direction you want them to go and they look at it and say, no, he's a fool. We're going this way. But ideally, it's somewhere around head high to 10 feet high, waist high to 12 feet high, somewhere in there. And you hang it inside the drip line of a woods line, up and down a fence row, around a pond. You know, if you know some places that swarms have landed before, put one there. Swarms tend to go in the same routes year after year after year after year. And there's some reasons that in theory they travel in the same paths every year, but observation is better than theory. They do go in the same directions every year. And if you see, we have a couple of little bushes in a fence row next to some berry plants that we have, and every year we catch swarms in them, every year. And I am for sure not going to cut those bushes down because a swarm that's that high off the ground is way easier to catch than one that's 40 feet off the ground. One that's 40 feet off the ground, give me your number, I'll call one of you. I ain't climbing up there to get that swarm of bees. I know how to raise bees. They can go wherever they want to. That's fine. They'll become part of the drone pool for me. But swarm traps, that's a legitimate way to acquire bees. The next best way, I'm kind of going from worst to best. There are people that catch swarms and then they will sell you that swarm. That's okay. The one person I'm thinking of, she will put your name on a list. You take her the equipment, a 10-frame box with frames in it. You take her the equipment, and when she catches a swarm, when she gets a swarm call, she'll put that swarm in your equipment and she'll call you. And she charges a certain amount of money. I've heard last year it was $100 per swarm. Figure inflation in on that, it could be more, but nothing ever gets cheaper. But that is a relatively inexpensive way to acquire bees. But she says that she only counts on catching 10 to 12 swarms a year. So get on her list early if you're going to. But there are other beekeepers that will call you when they find a swarm, and they'll let you catch the swarm, or they'll catch it, put it in a box. Keep in mind, if they do the work, then they get the money too. It's going to be a fee associated with it. The next way of getting bees is buying a package of bees. This is what bees come in. This is called a package box. 3 pounds of bees. This is a 3-pound package box. Now, when you get this, the bees will be diagonally from this corner to the center and solid from front to back. There'll be about 10,000 bees in it, about 3 pounds. Generally speaking, there's 3,500 bees per pound. So there'll be 10 to 11,000 bees in it, and a mated queen. At least you hope she's mated. And you can buy these from beekeeper supply stores. They'll have what they call package days, where that they put your name on the list. They will take your money, and when their packages come in, go pick the package up. If they call you and say the packages are in and we're going to have them ready for pickup Saturday, by all means, be there Saturday. Don't say, well, Saturday's the day that I go watch soccer games. Well, good for you. You're going to be watching soccer games on your phone while you're putting your bees in hives then. Pick the bees up. If you don't pick the bees up, it gets easy not to pick them up on Sunday, and easier not to pick them up on Monday. And before long, you pick them up a week late, and a third of the bees are dead in the box. They're not going to live in this box forever. On package day, be there and be responsible. Pick them up, pay your money. You still got to get these in a hive. This can in here has syrup in it, sugar syrup. That's to feed the bees until you put them in a hive. These cans are deceptively hard to get out of this box. I could substitute that sentence for extremely frustrating to get out of this box. I can tell some of you people have tried to get these things out of a box. But I want to demonstrate exactly how you put a package in a hive of bees. At least the first part of it. You have your hive setting here. You take a couple of frames out of the middle of it so that you can dump bees into it. You have the front not exactly closed off, but stuffed full of grass, so the bees don't just go in here and go off into the wild blue yonder.
Lemongrass?
No, just any kind of grass. Just whatever grass is growing around, just any kind of grass. All you're doing is stuffing something in the front that the bees can eventually take out, but that they can breathe through, and that you don't have to go back and fool with taking it out. You could put a screen across the front too, but you got to go back and take that screen out. But this is, and it seems kind of rough, but I look at it as showing them who's boss. There's some kind of sick satisfaction in that. But remember, this thing has sugar syrup in it. You got your hive ready to put the bees in. This has this triangle of bees in there, and they're all around this can is right in the middle of that bunch of bees. So you take some sugar syrup in a little, like a Windex bottle or some kind of spritzer, and you spray the bees on the outside. Just get a little bit of syrup and sugar water on them. You can use just plain water. If you put sugar water on them, that gives them something to do. They'll clean one another off with that sugar water. After you do, and all what that's doing, it's making them less likely to fly up out of the box when you take this can out. But this is the motion that you use. Yeah, oh.
I didn't expect that.
About that hard. You have jolted all of the bees down, and they'll be about this deep in the box, just solid. Then you can turn this up and begin to try to wrestle this stupid can out of here. You'll put your hive tool in the edge there and pry it up, and of course it'll get off kilter, and you learn a lot of new language when you're doing these things. But your bees are all going to be down here grooming one another because of that sugar water that you sprayed on them. You're going to have a minute or two, thankfully, to get this thing out. You get the can out, and at that point, there's different ways that you can handle putting the package into a hive. You can either do the quick and dirty method, which is just shaking the bees out of the hive, and then banging them like that, getting them all down here, and then shaking them toward the middle to the hole until you get most of the bees out. And I'm sure they're not happy, but after you put in 30 or 40 of these, you don't care if they're happy or not, because you're not happy either by then. That's one way of putting them in there. Put the lid on it, put the frames, your 2 frames that you took out, put them in there and wait. And they're going to be those frames are going to be resting on the bees. And you'll notice the frames just slowly kind of settling down. And when they settle down onto the frame rest, you can put your lid on it and just leave them overnight. And the next day, come out, and maybe your bees will still be in there. Every package that you put in does not stay in the hive. And the primary reason that they do not stay in the hive is because of quality control in the package industry. You've got old bees. The bees that were shaken to put in this box, speaking just for the ones that you put them in there and come out the next day to look at them, and you're like, well, the queen's in there, but nothing else. The queen's going to be in a cage in here. You hang her between 2 frames before that you dump or after you dump all the bees in there. Then you take the queen, hang her between 2 frames. There'll be a candy plug in the end. You can poke a hole in it if you want to. Just try not to skewer the queen when you do that. But you'll think, well, there was a queen in there. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. That package was probably shaken late in the afternoon. And late in the afternoon, all the foragers are home. The foragers are used to flying. Nurse bees, a package should be made up of 80 to 90% nurse bees. Nurse bees don't know about flying outside of the hive. They're going to stay with that hive. When you dump them in there, that's their home. Foragers, they don't care. You dump them in there, and they're like, well, this isn't where I was when they took me away from there, but let's go see if we can find home again. And they're going to be gone. And I get this call every year, multiple times. Why did my bees leave? Well, did you use a nuke or a package? Well, I put packages in, and I have the same discussion. And it's just something that don't go, it's not well understood among the beginner, especially beginner beekeepers, and also among experienced beekeepers. It's not very well understood that a package that's shaken after 1 o'clock in the afternoon is a lot more likely to abscond, to just leave. Even with a mated queen in there, a lot more likely to leave than compared to one shaken at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. You're going to get foragers at that time, or going to get nurse bees at that time of day, not foragers. So, and you have no way of knowing. You can't look at them and say, yeah, they're all nurse bees, or, oh, I don't want this one that's mostly foragers. You can't make that determination just in a minute or two. If you had time to look at several hundred bees, you might could. Yes.
So if you have a pickup time, you gotta pick up your bees, you go get your bees, by the time you get home, it's midday. 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Do you not do it that day? Do you wait till the next morning?
Wait until evening. Wait until the sun gets over the horizon before you put your bees into a hive. That way they don't have a lot of time to decide that I think it's time that we just try to find home again. At least they'll stay in there for a day or two, maybe. But that when bees from a package leave a hive, it's because they were shaken, not you shaking them. See, the people that sell packages, I've never done a lot of shaking of packages, but I worked for a guy that we shook packages. I worked for him for 2 years, off and on. And it's a big funnel that fits in this hole where the can goes. Comes up like this, same size, same dimensions as a deep frame. And you pull frames out of a hive and shake the bees off of them. They go down the funnel, kind of wiggle the funnel, they fall down into that's shaking bees. And when you do that, when you go through that process after 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the bees that are going to be on those frames are likely to be foragers and not as likely to be nurse bees. Now, this is a problem that you very seldom see. But when it happens to you, you're like, nobody told me about this. Well, now you can't say that. Because it does happen. It just don't happen that often. Rainy days, shaking them on rainy days, same way. The foragers are all home. And it happens if they're shook on a rainy day. But if you're putting them in, wait until late afternoon before you install them in a hive. Yes?
So the can, it's in the middle, does the top pop off, or does the whole?
Oh, no, the whole thing comes out. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing comes out, and it don't come out easy. It's wedged in there pretty tight, and that's by design.
Is there any reason why you just wouldn't cut that wire open when you put them in the...
You can, yeah. You can do that, but everybody ought to have to suffer through this, though. That's why we don't allow people to cut the wire.
I give about 10 minutes.
I have cut the wire, but there's another method of letting the bees come out. It's called letting bees walk out of the package, and that way you take out 4 to 5 frames out of your deep box, and your bees are all the rest of it is done the same. You bang it, shake them down into the bottom. You got to take this off or cut the wire, either way. Take the can out, take the queen out, suspend her between two frames, and you just set this down in your deep box and let the bees come out on their own and find the queen. I prefer to do it the rough, quick, dirty way. But because by the time I'm doing this, I've already had about enough for the day, you know. But I have installed a lot of packages by just setting them down in the hive and letting the bees walk out. And there's going to be some bees left in there. When you come look at this the next day, there's going to be some bees left in here, and you're going to have to shake them out, but not that many. That's a pretty gentle way to handle your bees. And before I know some of you are thinking, I want to be so nice to my bees. They're going to love me because I'm not going to bang them around like that fool said to do, and they're going to love me for it. That is a more gentle way to handle your bees, and they won't thank you a bit for it.
They will, they'll make him sting you.
Yeah, they'll thank you tail end first, won't they? Yeah.
Did you ever improve, knowing what you know about having to bang this box, have they ever tried to improve the design of that metal can where it's screw out or have a lid to where? I know
You're talking about beekeepers here, man.
Initiation, if I had to do it, you do too.
It's not the beekeeper per se, but it is the whole system. If you ship through FedEx, UPS, I mean, these could even be becoming angrier or whatever, but the whole lifestyle. I didn't know in terms of your knowledge of being applied to improvement.
There is an improvement on this box. It's a plastic box. It's called the bee bus like a school bus. It is a major improvement on the box. And it's a lot easier on the bees. The can is a little bit easier to get out. Not a lot easier, but it's a little bit easier to get out. Yeah, they have a gate that you can turn. Yeah. So, but it's very few package producers use that, and they're a little bit more expensive. These cost about $3 a box to make, and a bee bus costs about $12. So you can see why it's not adopted by the industry. Everything's about money. But cutting a hole in it, I mean, I'm fine with that. I never go there because I never. I'm always thinking I can use that for something. So I've got a barn stacked up with these stupid things that I've never yet found another use for. I mean, you can make a cricket trap out of it if you were a fisherman, maybe. But yeah. So the next way is my favorite way, and that's buying a nuke. You're going to pay probably anywhere from $125 to $175 for a 3-pound package. You're going to pay anywhere from $150 to $225 for a 5-frame nuke. The advantage is an immediate 3-week advantage on these bees out of a package. Queen lays an egg. It's an egg for 3 days, a larva for 7 days, and a pupa for 11 days if it's a worker. You got a 21-day brood cycle there, and before it's an adult bee. So each frame will have bees, and at least 3 of the frames should have all stages of brood. So you've already got larvae in there. So that's an immediate 21-day advantage on this. Besides that, you've got pupa in there that's going to be emerging that day. So that's an even bigger advantage because your population is going to probably, if you do nothing with it, it's going to triple in the next week. So you buy a 5-frame nuke, and they're very user friendly. And you'll have 5 frames in it. In order to keep from mashing the queen, and I mean, buying it is a matter of exchanging money. I mean, it's not like you got to make great arrangements, but when your nukes are ready at your bee supply guy, go get them. Same way. Don't let them have to stay in this thing any longer than they have to. They've already been in there probably 2 to 3 weeks, but they've been flying. This is their hive. This is their home. But when it's going to be shipped and delivered, it's closed off. They can't get out. That creates a lot of anxiety for the honeybees. And believe it or not, honeybees can die from panic attacks just like people can, and maybe even at a greater rate. But when you pick your nuke up, it should be full of bees. Every frame should have drawn comb on it. 3 of the frames should have brood of all ages on them. Sometimes you'll get 4 to 5 frames that have smaller areas of brood. It will average out to about 3 full frames of brood. And you'll have food on it also, honey and pollen or bee bread. Hopefully you'll have a little bit of open comb on it, but that's not a guarantee. It's not a given. Those 3 things, though, bees, brood of all ages, and food, those are enough. So the first thing that you do when you're going to put it in, take your hive tool, break the frames apart, or that you're separating them apart so that you can take out one frame without mashing the bees up against another frame. And if you happen to have frames that have bridge comb between them, bees do build that comb in order to get from one frame to another. It's a transport method. Just go to the next frame. Find one that does not have the bridge comb where you're not going to be breaking it apart, and pick it up. Don't remove the frame any fast. That first frame that you're taking out, don't pull it out of the hive any faster than a bee crawls. That way, if the queen happens to be on there, which by Murphy's Law she will, if she happens to be on there, she can at least crawl out of the way rather than getting crushed between other bees. And you take that and you put this corresponding, you remove all the frames out of your 10-frame hive, and corresponding to its position in this hive, and you put this in your 10-frame hive. Then you can break these frames farther apart, and the brace comb don't make any difference then when you get it broken completely apart. And you take out each frame and leave plenty of room between them. Put the frames in really loose. I mean loose like that was in an old dead out, this old nasty dirt and stuff where mice got in there and tore the comb up. It's not anything that'll kill anybody's bees, but I wished it would have killed that mouse. Leave them about that far apart when you're putting them in, because you don't have any other frames in there. You leave them that far apart, and then after they're against the frame rest, then push them up against one another. And then you can fill in frames around them. And you fill in starting against the hive, and you put it down and push it up against it again, rather than just pushing it down between there. I had a fella several years ago that called and wanted to buy 40 nukes, and I had some extra nukes, so I told him I'd sell them to him. And he said, can I come pick them up? He called what day, and I said, sure, I'll be home. So him and a friend of his came to pick up these nukes, and he was way too old. I mean, he couldn't have got this done in less than 80 or 90 years, but he didn't look more than 40. But I mean, he was an overachiever. But they come and they're standing in my driveway. The nukes are sitting about from here to the wall, lined up along the driveway. And he said, "So where are the nukes?" And I'm like, "Well, nobody said you were blind, but you can't see them." And I didn't say the blind part, but it was going through my head. I have a really sarcastic mind, and being half non-sighted myself, I feel like I had the license for it. And I said, "You didn't see them?" "Well, no, where are they?" "Out in the field?" I said, "No, they're like right here." And he said, "Oh, that's a nuke." And he had been talking like he knew everything about the whole business. So, I that's okay. I've exaggerated some before too. And I said, "You want to look in them?" "No, I know what the inside one of them looks like." I said, "Okay, you didn't know what the outside looked like. How are you going to know what the inside looked like?" And there again, it was all in my head. I didn't say that.
Was his name Joel?
No, it was not. That was another story for another time. But just as interesting, yeah. But anyway, he said, "Now they have queens in them." I said, "Yeah, they got laying queens in them." I said, "Let's look in one." "Oh no, I'm good." I said, "So you know how to put these in hives?" "Well, yeah, we know how to put them in hives." I said, "Okay." So I sold them to him, and off he goes. And I didn't think nothing about it. And me and the guy that's working for me were going to Mississippi about 2 weeks later, and he calls me, and he says, "Some of these nukes you sold me didn't have queens in them. I checked them that morning before he came, and they all had queens in them." And I said, "Well, maybe. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. What are you going to do about it?" I said, "Well, I'm headed to Mississippi now. We will pull some queens out of hives down there, and I'll stop back at your place, and we'll put queens in them." He said, "Well, that works for me. Are you going to charge me for them?" I said, "No, I'm not going to charge you for them." And in my mind, I was thinking, I don't charge people for being stupid. But so the rest of the way down to Mississippi, the guy that works with me, he was all about this fella. He was giving him down the road, and he said, "He killed them queens." I said, "Probably, but you're going to give him 5 queens." I said, "I want to give him 5 queens because it's worth giving him 5 queens to keep him from telling everybody what a jerk I am, because I gave him queenless nukes, even though we know that they were not queenless." And boy, he was really growling about all of it. We stopped at this fella's house on the way back, and I said, "Those 5 hives," and this is what not to do when you're putting nukes in. Those 5 hives, he had not removed any frames from the hives that he put them in. The hives he put them in had drawn comb, which meant that they stuck out further. And when he put the frames in, he just jammed the frames in, but the last frame that went in, he just jammed the frames in between it, and it just bubbled up. It just took all of the comb off of the frames, bees and everything, brood and everything. And he said, "You're not giving him them queens." I said, "Yeah, we're going to give him them queens. We're going to put them in like we'd put them in one of our hives, and then we're going to leave." He said, "Well, I just don't feel good about this." And I said, "Well, you can feel good knowing that I ain't never going to sell anything to this guy again. And that kind of satisfied him. That's what not to do. I mean, he just jammed the frames down and just everything came off the frames. Yes, ma'am.
So the 5 frames.
Yeah.
You put those in the center.
Yeah, in the center.
In the center, and then one at a time, fill in the other 5.
Fill in the other.
On either
And
side.
yeah, and you start by filling in. If this is the center frame, and this is the frame that had been in there, you start by setting it over here and scooting it up against it. You're a lot less likely to damage queens or anything else if you scoot it up against it instead of sliding it down by it. Sliding it down by it gives a guillotine effect on everything. Scooting it up against it, it might squeeze it a little bit, but you're not likely to, unless you're just really ignorant, you're not likely to mash comb against comb. When you feel resistance sliding it up against it, stop. Don't slide it any farther. Yes?
What did you say the 5-frame rate was for them?
5-frame rate, the cheapest you'll be able to find them is somewhere around $150, and they go on up, but it depends on who you get them from, where they're coming from, what type of bee they are. They get as high as $225, maybe $250. That's what you can expect to pay.
But that includes the frames too, right?
Oh yeah, you get 5 frames with a 5-frame nuke. You're paying total price for 1 unit. Nobody expects frame exchange anymore. Used to, you'd have a frame exchange until the exchange frame started being absolute junk. And then the nuke producers were like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. And now they just add in the price of frames, those 5 frames, into the nuke. I mean, it's all fair because you're going to have to pay for the frames one way or the other anyway. So you're not going to be as likely to find a $150 nuke as you will a $185 or $190 nuke. That's going to be your common settling ground. Somewhere 180 to 200 is going to be where your price will probably settle. But a nuke, if you have good forage area, you can expect a honey crop out of it the first year. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, if you have some additional resources, like say in the freezer, and you wanna put it into your nuke, I know you take it out before you're gonna do that, right? Get it out of the freezer, let it get warm. But how,
You're talking about food frames.
yeah, like say I have honey and say I have comb,
Yeah.
what order do I wanna put that in? Is it gonna go on the outside?
Food goes on the outside. Pollen first, honey next, and then draw an empty comb or just comb. But the protein always goes on the far outside, and because they'll go to the protein when they need it, and it goes on the far outside. You try to get it fixed, and when it gets fixed, you can assimilate it back into your other population if you need to. But European foul brood, not American. American foul brood, just burn it and be done with it. But
How does a newbie kind of spot that? I don't have a clue to spot that.
sac brood is very easy to spot. European foul brood is very easy to spot. Paralysis, to a trained eye, is very easy to spot. But nosema and tracheal mites, not so much. You're just looking for symptoms more than anything else. With any of those diseases, you're just looking for symptoms. Sac brood is a swelled up white larva that takes up most of the cell, and it's just way too big for what it should be. And European foul brood will be a larva that's still C-shaped but brownish colored, brownish or yellowish colored. European foul brood never gets past that C shape. Sac brood does get past that C shape, but swells up and gets like a blimp in there. Paralysis, you'll see bees that look like they have had oil poured on them. They look slick and shiny, and if it's far enough along, they'll be shaking like that. Maybe fall over like they're drunk. That's paralysis. Paralysis and sac brood are viruses, and there's not really a lot you can do for both of those. European foul brood, a brood break will stop that pretty well. Terramycin will stop it absolutely, but you got to have a veterinarian's feed directive for that. But there's a booklet that you can get, and it's free. It's on the internet now. It's from the University of Maryland. It's the MAREC, Honeybee Diseases and Pests, honeybee parasites, diseases and pests, or something like that. But it's from the University of Maryland, and it has some of the best photos of what all of those diseases look like, and you can access it for free on the internet now. So I would encourage everybody to, especially newbies, to look at that, because if you don't know what this stuff looks like and you get into your hive, the first thing you're going to think is, oh my goodness, I've got everything. And you never have everything. You may have something, but you never have everything.
Who put that book out?
What?
Who was it?
University of Maryland. I think the name is Honeybee Parasites, Pests, and Diseases, I think.
Is that it?
You're asking a blind guy, man.
Is that what it looks like?
Who wrote it?
It says Robert Owen, Jean-Pierre Shearlink, and Mark Stevenson. A complete guide to prevention and management of honeybee pests and diseases.
That may be it. But the one I'm familiar with, Marianne Fraser, had a part in it. She was one of the authors of it. But I'm old, and that was a while back. The old ones were little wire-bound books that spiral wire-bound that were orange colored,
I think I saw one of those earlier.
and cost $16 a piece, when $16 is worth about what $50 is now. I was like, man, I don't know if I can justify the cost of that. And I looked in it and thought, I'm going to buy 2 of these, because I need one, and I need to take one back to our club, and just for everybody to be able to fight over. Yes.
So how do you keep this, this nuke happy? Because I'm 0 for 2 on keeping one alive. So how do you get your numbers up?
Number one, don't be afraid to feed.
Okay.
Feed and feed and feed more. Light syrup, just feed, and whatever volume container you have, fill it half full of granulated sugar, and fill it completely full of water. And the water displaces enough sugar that you will have about a 0.7 to 1 mix. That's what bees prefer. That's the preferred mixture. And feed them that sugar syrup. Make sure they have plenty of protein, pollen sub. And I just put the pollen sub in a nuke box like this and leave it open, sitting out on a 55-gallon drum where the coons won't get it. But the bees will find it. If they need it, they'll find it before you get back to the house. And as long as you have their food needs met, the nourishment requirements needed, if they're healthy and if they stay queen right, then you're ahead of the game. You're kind of in the driver's seat then. But you're talking about nature, and you can be in the driver's seat 1 minute and pitched out on the road the next. Check your hive about every 3 weeks or so, for at least every 3 weeks or so, to make sure it has a queen in there. Look for eggs. If you got the feed out there for them, there should be eggs in there. And if they're healthy, there should be eggs in there. Make sure your mite count is low. Treat early spring, midsummer, and late fall.
I've seen some
Yes.
recommendations.
Should you treat right when you get your nuke, or should you wait a while?
With a nuke, most of the time they have been treated. It's not going to hurt to treat them again. Wait until they have kind of begun to draw out some of the other frames so that they're beginning to feel like home, and treat them then.
Is it too late to treat right now?
I hope not. I got a guy treating some of my hives today. Formic.
Formic?
Yeah.
Is it on paper towel?
No, Formic, he's using Formic Pro pads,
Oh,
and he's putting Formic on hives today. The last 72 hives that we had. Ricky.
Tell them what'll happen if when they get your nuke, they go set it on the front porch, and then they take it to the backyard where they wanna keep it.
All your bees are going to come back to the front porch. Put it where you want to keep it before you open it.
And if they go on vacation after they get it for 10 days, 2 weeks, what'll happen to that box? If it's full.
If it's full of bees, it's not going to be full of bees when you come back after that 2-week vacation. It will swarm. A nuke will swarm just like a hive will. It will run out of room and they'll be in the air. So when you get your nuke, put it in a 10-frame hive. Make sure it's healthy. Put feed on it. Keep feed out for it. 2 to 3 weeks later, check it, make sure it's still queen right. If it's not, put a queen in it. And bees are just livestock. You treat bees like you would anything else.
Well, quick message, there's not gonna be a break between this class and the next class, so the next one is Dr. Amy Potter in the auditorium. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
You get to it.